In the aftermath of that nightmarish encounter, the silence of our small fog-shrouded town became a suffocating cloak, heavier with each passing moment. I had survived, but at a cost so dear it left my heart hollow. The disease, a grotesque blight that turned loved ones into monsters, had robbed me of my family and now threatened to consume me wholly. Despite the horror, I found a sliver of hope in the resilience of my spirit. The hospital had become a temporary refuge, a place to mend my wounds, both physical and unseen. Yet the shadow of my husband, or rather the creature he had become, loomed large over my recovery. The doctors, fascinated by his condition, saw him as a key to understanding the epidemic. I saw only the end of the world we knew, encapsulated in his twisted form. Days turned into weeks, and I was discharged into a world unrecognizable. Our neighborhood, once a shared space of two homes, stood as a desolate reminder of the before times. The evacuated house across the street, with its mildewed walls and sterile, uncanny light, seemed almost inviting compared to the loneliness of my own home. But solitude was a luxury I could not afford. The knowledge that my husband, now a grotesque echo of the man I loved, was still out there filled me with a dread that was palpable. The police, bound by protocol and disbelief, offered no solace. My pleas for help, for action, fell on deaf ears. I was alone, a survivor in a town swallowed by fog and fear. As night enveloped the world once again, I fortified my home with what little strength and resolve I had left. But the heart knows its own despair, and mine ached for closure, for vengeance, for an end to the nightmare. Then, in the deepest, darkest hours before dawn, a sound shattered the fragile peace, a scratching, a desperate clawing at my door. My breath caught in my throat, and every cell in my body screamed to flee, to hide. Yet I moved toward the door, driven by a force I couldn't name. Peering through the peephole, my worst fears were realized. There he was, my husband, his form grotesque and unrecognizable, yet unmistakably him. His eyes, once full of warmth and love, now glowed with a feral, insatiable hunger. The disease had consumed him, leaving only this shell of madness. Tears streamed down my face as I backed away from the door, the weight of my decision heavy in my heart. I could not let him in, could not succumb to the madness that claimed him, but neither could I abandon him to this fate. As I steadied my resolve, the scratching grew more frenzied, a testament to the battle within him. In that moment, I knew what I had to do, not just for him or for me, but for all those lost to this horrifying disease. With trembling hands, I reached for the phone, ready to make a call that would change everything. But before I could dial, a new sound pierced the night, a voice, barely a whisper, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 words. "Help me," it said, a plea from the other side of the door, from the other side of humanity. My heart shattered. With the whispered plea hanging in the air, a battle between fear and compassion raged within me. The voice, so familiar yet hauntingly distorted, pulled at the very fabric of my resolve. I stood, paralyzed, at the precipice of a decision that could alter the course of my existence and perhaps the very nature of this affliction. Choosing to act, I fortified my courage with the memory of the man he once was. My hands, though shaking, worked with purpose to secure every entrance, a futile attempt to keep the night's madness at bay. Yet, in my heart, I knew barricades of wood and metal could not shield me from the decision I faced. The voice outside grew softer, a sign of the man's struggle against the monstrous hunger that drove him to my doorstep. It was a moment of heartbreaking clarity. He was both the predator at my gates and the victim of an incomprehensible fate. This duality haunted me, a mirror to the chaos that now defined our world. As dawn's first light threatened to pierce the night, a plan began to form, a desperate gambit that hinged on the slimmest chance of salvaging what remained of the man I loved. It was a plan fraught with danger, not just from the man-turned-monster before me, but from the unseen forces that had unleashed this horror upon us. With every fiber of my being screaming against the notion, I opened a small, secure window, enough to speak through, but not enough to allow entry. "I will find a way," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "I will find a way to save us both." His response was a guttural sound, a mix of pain and longing that faded as he retreated into the shadows. I was left alone with my promise, a vow made in the face of an uncertain dawn. And so the sun rose on a town shrouded in fog, on a world teetering on the brink. My journey was far from over, a path fraught with danger and discovery. Ahead lay the unknown, the possibility of cure or calamity. But within me burned a fire, kindled by love and fueled by determination. I would venture into the heart of this darkness, seeking answers, seeking hope. The story does not end here, but rather it unfolds into a new chapter, where courage faces fear, and where the quest for a cure becomes a fight for the soul of humanity. The road ahead is uncertain, but the resolve to traverse it is unwavering. In the final twist, as the protagonist ventures beyond the safety of her home, seeking a cure amidst the chaos, she uncovers a harrowing truth. The disease, a product of human error, has irreversibly intertwined humanity and monstrosity. In a clandestine laboratory, she finds not only the origins of the plague, but also a potential antidote. However, the cure comes with a cost. It doesn't reverse the condition, but grants lucidity, allowing the afflicted to retain their human consciousness, even in their monstrous form. Armed with this knowledge and the antidote, she returns to confront her husband, now fully consumed by the disease. In a poignant encounter, she administers the cure, and he regains his human awareness, trapped within his monstrous body. Together, they face a critical choice: continue a life shadowed by the physical horrors of the disease, or embrace a final act of love, ending their torment. In a heart-wrenching decision, they choose the latter, sharing one last moment of clarity and love before stepping into the unknown, leaving behind a world grappling with the consequences of its actions. Their story becomes a legend, a reminder of the fragile boundary between humanity and the darkness it can create or succumb to. And as the fog lifts from the small town, the dawn of a new day brings both hope and a solemn vow to remember and learn from the past. Thank you for listening to my channel.